Good morning, dear participants. Can you hear me well? Yes, excellent. So, I hope and I'm really sure that you are fully awake after such an interesting presentation given by Anna and Dmitro. I work in the similar field. I work in the field related to the healthcare, and I think it's good that today we have an opportunity to discuss such a topic as specialization. So let's consider whether it's something positive or negative, whether it's worth being a specialized interpreter. If you are the one, in what way can you look for your customers? How can you develop your strategies? Should you work in a very narrow topic, or you should cover the related topics? So let me ask you, who believes him or herself to be a specialized interpreter? Please raise your hands. Well, I would say that uh, we are not too many, and who believe themselves to be universal interpreters. A little bit more people we see. So, of course, both approaches uh, can exist. So, let me introduce myself. My name is Anna. I've been involved in interpreting for a long time. I've been working as interpreter since the first years of university, and over the past years I've been dealing mostly with healthcare, in particular HIV/AIDS, other infectious disease, vulnerable groups, prevention and treatment. And let me tell you more about choosing my way. Of course, this did not happen overnight. My educational background is international economy. I used to work in trade companies, in some manufacturing enterprises, dealing with the imports and exports. I also taught English at the university. I also provided personal training in English. And in 2008, I moved from Zaporizhia to another city. So my native town is not very far away from this location. So I moved to Kiev, and I learned about three vacancies of interpreters at some available at some companies, because in Zaporizhia this was quite a rare phenomenon. I was as an interpreter on staff, and I worked as an interpreter in a commercial bank, as I believed it was bingo for me, because I worked in the field of economy, so this was corresponding with my educational background. And on the other hand, I also got trained as interpreter, and I could dedicate more time to interpretation services. I used to work as an interpreter for the translation agencies, but these were some assignments on rare occasions, and I also happened to help my friends and family. I helped them to translate manuals for some devices or some machine tools, but actually it was a real nightmare for me. In the first stages of my career, it was quite difficult to specialize in a certain field, and I had to try my hand in various spheres just to understand what I can do best and what's on demand at the market. Then, further on, it is possible to make decisions about the future career path. After this commercial bank, I started working in a charitable organization, and this organization focused actually on the healthcare issues, and I believe this was my best decision in professional terms. Uh, by working on stuff, I managed to dive into the topic. I learned not only the terms themselves, but I also understood their meaning. As a freelancer, we have to get ourselves prepared for every assignment. We make glossaries, we ask the customers about the materials. Of course, we study the topic. Uh, but if you spend months and years in a certain topic, working for a certain assignment, you get a deep dive, so to say. And I always tell my customers that I do not have a medical background. I'm not a healthcare professional, and that's I also tell my clients, but I am quite knowledgeable on the same level as the project manager, let's say, because I understand the disease, the course of disease, the risks, the treatment, and other aspects. I know some things about prevention, about the services related to this disease. So at this level, I can say that I'm quite knowledgeable in the topic. So I'm not a healthcare professional or a nurse, but at the same time I'm quite experienced. Then you can also get consulted by the specialist. As a freelancer, on some occasions you may ask questions. However, uh, the events can be arranged by event agency. The event agency also works with the translation agency, and the translation agency hires you. And if you have to ask the question, your questions goes through all these circles. It's quite a different situation if you are close to the experts sitting next door. If you are curious, if you are ready to develop your skills, if you are ready to ask the questions, it's a very good opportunity to have these specialists at hand. And another benefit of this work and stuff is availability of contacts. Of course, I cannot overestimate the importance of the contacts. I've been working for 4 years as freelancers, and many customers at the moment are uh, people from the organizations I worked for before, the customers of those organizations. And if these people know you well, they are ready to refer you to other customers, and thus you can make up a portfolio of customers. With such a portfolio, you will be really comfortable as a freelancer. Of course, it's also important to find your topic. If you are a universal interpreter, maybe it is not that significant. However, if you are going to work with the same topic for many years, of course, it will be crucial decision for you. So I'll give you this example of the bank I worked for. It was not very interesting for me, and I did not feel important. I didn't feel really useful. I just believe that I was helping big bosses earn money. Of course, everyone needs bank services. Of course, these services are high on demand. And I know that there are many colleagues working with the manufacturing companies. They manufacture certain goods, and these companies produce something tangible, unlike organizations like non-governmental organizations that get grants and appropriate these grants. Uh, I'll tell you one story. At one of the events, I had to interpret about the democracy, about civil society, about the politics. So it was not the promotion of any political party, but there were lots of politicians attending this event, and during the whole day I've been listening for this misconduct of these politicians, and this event was quite emotional, and the emotions were really negative. So it was not a good option for me to specialize in. Or another example, the foundation I worked for. This foundation dealt with vulnerable groups of population, with the HIV/AIDS communities. It's not a problem for me. I've got many acquaintances in this community. I've got, for instance, an interpreter. I know an interpreter, and he used to tell me that please invite me because you have to translate lots of documents, you have to interpret lots of events. At the same time, this person is quite homophobic, and this person is very open about his attitude. And actually, I was really surprised when he asked me to invite him to one of the events attended by representatives of a homosexual community, let's say. Okay, and now you see some pictures, some good memories from Utic 2016. Together with Adelaida from Belarus, we were delivering a presentation on benefits of freelance and working on staff. So we compared working on staff and freelance. A year after this Utic, I became a freelancer myself, and at that time I had to make an important decision whether I had to diversify or whether I had to specialize in a certain topic. I've been working in this topic for 7 years, so it was actually evident that this would be the further path for my career. So the first months of freelance were quite chaotic. I tried many topics, many spheres, and I realized that in monetary terms, let's say, it's not very beneficial for me. It's not very profitable, so to say. Of course, if it's my topic, I still have to spend some time preparing for an event. I have to refresh the names of organizations, some figures, some terminology. Maybe I should watch the video which is supposed to be presented, but this won't take too much time. However, if it's a completely new topic, I, as a responsible person, can spend a whole day getting myself prepared for a 2-hour event. Of course, it's not profitable for me, even if the rate is high. Therefore, I made a decision in favor of specialization. And at that time, at that stage, the support of my colleagues was really crucial. So I meant the support of the interpreters community. As the colleagues learned that I became a freelancer, they started inviting me to their assignments, or they referred me, or they also helped me with the written translation. It was really important, maybe not so important from the point of view of assignments, because I got enough assignments, but I felt this helping hand of my colleagues. They were ready to support me. And participation in such events as Utic or interpreters meetings, online meetings, international events is a cool thing, because thus you contribute to the community. You get support, you can provide support, and this is really beneficial. And what helped me to occupy my niche? So first of all, my knowledge, my experience, which I gained while working in the foundation. Then the contacts with the colleagues, with other interpreters I worked together. The contacts with colleagues who are not interpreters. We used to involve some interpreters in terms of outsource, and we got to know each other better, and I invited them and they invited me. It was also very cool. Then another benefit is the geographical spread. To some extent, this may sound a bit trivial, but we should not forget about the physical presence of the customers. I live in Kiev, but the majority of my customers are not Ukrainian companies, but international organizations based in the Eastern Europe and the Central Asia region. Many programs cover the entire region. They work with English and Russian languages, so there is high demand in this sphere. And some organizations, of course, coordinate some projects in Ukraine, or they have their offices in Ukraine, and here Ukrainian language is also really relevant. So what can I do? What do? I do both translation and interpreting. Sometimes I get involved in proofreading if I do not have enough assignments with interpretation. I am not really willing to to broaden the range of my topics. I am not really comfortable when I do not have enough assignments. If I do not go on vacation, I just take some translation. By translating documents, I learn something new, I earn some money, and I don't just waste time. But it's, of course, a personal decision of every interpreter. I also cover some healthcare-related topics, such as healthcare reforms, because there are lots of them in Ukraine. Communicable and non-communicable diseases, and of course the situation with the pandemic, with the vaccination, they also intersect with my specialization, because there are terms such as incidence, prevalence, and so on and so forth. These things will be common for all healthcare-related topics.
It will be much easier for me to know the topic rather than an absolute newcomer to the topic. And I've written here that there are 40 hours in your working week, and I do not need 100 clients because I won't be able to provide services to all of them as I'm working alone. 10 will be, or probably 15 or 20 will be enough for me. Some clients will be regular clients who will give you some job every month. Probably they organize some events or a series of webinars, or they need some publications for their websites. Some clients will be occasional, they will come you from time to time. And some orders may be generally single orders, but they may be quite significant. For example, it may be a big conference or a many-page report, or, for example, a big event regarding interpretation, which will take you several days. There are some concerns regarding your niche specialization. For example, my colleagues asked me, what if you run out of orders in your topic? I also had this concern. What am I going to do in this case? Well, you should psychologically be ready for this. The world is changing very quickly, and definitely there may be a case when disease-related topics will be on periphery. But these things do not happen overnight. Anyway, there are certain market tendencies that we have to trace, and we really have to understand in what area there are more translations, what areas are better developed, what plans your clients have for future, etc. What else I'm trying to do for myself? I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone, and I try to see what's going on. and therefore I submit for some big projects or for some vacancies uh, in different topics, in different types of translation or interpreting. So I submit my CV, I do some mock translation, a test translation. Probably I go and have some job interview, and in this way I check whether my knowledge and competences meet the market requirements. I try to check it, and even if you reject the job offer, still you feel confident that if you run out of your own projects, there are some other clients who potentially might be interested in your services. And another concern that was often voiced, isn't it boring to translate all the same all the time? Well, I do not translate the same things all the time. It's not that I translate for a certain professor who's delivering one and the same lecture all the time and I'm translating it all the time. Now, we are talking about a big area. Some projects come to the end, some projects appear, new drugs appear on the market, there are new clinical trials. So the market is developing, and we as interpreters and translators also are developing. So the topic is definitely not boring. On the contrary, it's a bit strange for me to read the posts and comments of my universal colleagues who say, well, yeah, I have been working for 3 days at let's ABC conference, and still I haven't got understood what it was about. It's really sad when a person was translating the conference and still doesn't get a single idea what it was about. So it's another concern. Advantages or pluses of specialization for me. First of all, I'm more confident about the quality of my work, a better understanding of the topic, and less time for preparation, which definitely has its consequences for some commercial things, because I may take probably more orders. What are the pluses for the client? This is expected quality, expected good quality or stable quality. No serious blunders or blatant errors. Dmitry said that we are not robots, and definitely in interpretation field, a lot depends on the speaker, on his or her delivery rate, on the technical issues, the quality of sound, if it is online interpreting. But if you specialize in the topic, you can easily grasp what the speech is about, what this particular passage is about. But if a person just hears separate words and is trying to combine them, it may be really funny. I remember myself interpreting at a big conference, and there was a random choice of interpreters, and I was in the same booth with a lady who has good delivery, but it was obvious that she was not well prepared for the topic. And the speaker said, we would like to meet 90 targets. So it is a UN strategy with some target indicators in the area of HIV, AIDS, and a lady actually heard the figure 90 and said that we would like to reach the targets of 1990. So she was definitely mistaken. So we have to take into account both linguistic and non-linguistic factors. The topic I often work with a really highly sensitive topic. For example, this may be working with people with some specific diagnoses, with some risks, and it's really important not to hurt these people. It's very important to use the correct terminology, so it's much easier to trace case and follow these issues if you are in the topic. For example, when I started working in the field about 10 years ago, the idea was that, for example, you should not use drug addict term, but you'd better use drug consumer or drug user. So these terms were considered to be appropriate. Later, the concept has changed, and now the correct way of saying it is people who use drugs. And the same thing is about the other characteristics. First of all, we say people who or people with, and the primary accent goes on the word people. What is my final goal in regarding specialization? So how to become, for me, is to become translator by default. What I mean is, if the client needs translation or interpreting in my area, this person will come to me. Or if, for example, somebody needs reference in this area, again, the person will be referred to me. So this is what I'm going to reach in this specialization. How should you search for client if you have your niche specialization? This is the art of interpreting. So if you are an interpreter, it means you go to some events. People hear you, people listen to you, people see you. Even if you're working online, you may have your camera on and you may make yourself visible for people to associate a name, a voice, and a face. So there are really very standard things: participation in some conferences, participation in some events, informal communication, business card, social networks. For example, you got acquainted with some people at some events, and then you network with them. You probably write some posts and some articles about interpreting and translation. But I have noticed that some colleagues do not do this. For example, if it is simultaneous interpreting, a person comes to the event, sees a booth, goes to the booth, says hello to technicians, puts his laptop on the table, probably starts doing some written translation. A person goes to a coffee break and comes back to the booth. So actually, there is no networking at all. It means potentially a person lost 4 or 5 clients. Well, it's understandable that if you have huge number of clients and orders, you can ignore all these things. But if you try to get some new clients, definitely networking is the primary thing to do. And I wanted to present 3 cases. One case is not my case, but 2 other cases are cases from my real life. The first case is Julia, the photographer. I did the photo session. In 2018, I set my goals regarding self-promotion, and there was some social media course. I wanted to have new business cards, and I wanted to have professional photo session. I saw the photos of my colleagues, and I wanted to follow their example. So I thought, okay, what should I do? Probably I should subscribe to some pages of photographers. I have chosen 5 photographers from Kiev, and I decided to look at their works, and probably later I wanted to use their services. Well, but Kiev is not a big city, as it turned out, and I saw that I had mutual friends with these photographers. So I subscribed to their pages. Okay, I've done something on the way to my goal. Let it be. And then one of the ladies wrote to me, Anna, hello. I see that you are my subscriber and we have some mutual friends. So let's become friends. I'm Julia, I'm a photographer, I provide photo services. Okay, I responded, my name is Anna, I am an interpreter, and actually I wanted to have some professional photo session. She said, great, let's drink some coffee together, I show you my works, let's communicate. I thought, okay, why not? Let's do it tomorrow. I really looked through her portfolio, I liked her portfolio. And then she said, okay, if you are ready, let's book time. Probably later you may change the time, but at least let's have some preliminary booking and there will be a special discount for you. I thought, well, I was not thinking of doing it right now, but anyway, I need a photo session and moreover there is a discount, why not? So after this subscription in Facebook, 1 month later, I already had the photos I needed. And this photo is already our family photo session. We came to Julia, and I also recommended Julia to my colleagues when people asked whether you have some good photographers. Probably it doesn't work like that in our world, I mean in the world of interpretation or translation. But what I'm trying to say, the other photographers I was subscribing to probably are also good, are also great, and their portfolios may really be good. But Julia was really client-oriented, she was really initiative, and therefore we have been working together, and she even found some other clients through my reference. The second case is my case, contract one and Vasily, how I won the tender, the contract, but didn't get any orders until I met Vasily. Okay, the company offered a contract for translation services. It was my niche. They requested a pack of documents. I sent them my CV, excerpts of my translation, and really they confirmed that you have won the competition process. We even signed the contract, and then nothing. Nobody gave me any orders. And then I reminded them that I'm here. Again, no results. And then I made a conclusion for myself that probably my price offering was too high. Probably some other people provided more favorable rates, and therefore I did not have any orders. So I forgot about it. But then I was doing some interpretation for some other clients, and then I saw in the list of reporters the representative of this company. And I decided to communicate with this representative. During the coffee break, he was drinking coffee alone, so I took a cup of coffee. I came up to him. Definitely, I didn't do it immediately. I just asked him, probably you have some handouts, probably there could be some videos that I have to know about. And he asked, are you an interpreter? And he said, okay, but we need some translation services. And I said, okay, I know, I really signed the contract with your company, but somehow there are no orders from you. And he answered, well, we have so many CVs and we have some negative experience of working with new people. Therefore, it turned out that they do not give orders to unknown translators in case they were not recommended to them by their acquaintances. So we really got acquainted. He saw that I'm a good and adequate person. I work in the field, and he said, okay, let's work with you. And when I came back to Kiev and opened my laptop, I already saw an order from that company, and we have been working together for 3 years, and actually it is one of my favorite clients, one of my favorite companies. So you should really remind about your existence. And the third example, charismatic speaker Samantha, how a business card and kind word brought us very long-term and mutual cooperation. It was a simultaneous interpretation for one of my clients. It was a training, and the trainer was representing an international organization from Geneva, with headquarters in Geneva. We had some handouts. The speaker was really good, and then I do not remember the topic. It was related to human rights, and Samantha said that next year we plan to prepare some publications for you, and we plan to interpret them into Russian. And I make some mental note for myself that they need translation services. And during the lunch break, I came up to her, definitely not immediately mentioning the topic. I said, "Thank you very much for being an excellent speaker. You had really well-structured speech, and you had the handouts. Thank you very much." And then I continued, "Well, I also provide translation services, so if you need some translation, here is my business card, so probably you may come in contact with me." And later I sent a follow-up email saying it was nice to work with you. And 1 year after, I have been translating these guidelines for this organization, and it was probably one of the most profitable orders throughout my freelance career. And when the pandemic started and the online era came, they also referred to me for interpretation services. So it doesn't take you too long, and it is not really difficult and effort taking to go out of the booth and talk to the clients, talk to people you interpret. And once again, I see that not all the colleagues are doing this. Probably they do not want to do this. But it's much more efficient rather than send your CVs 100 times. Because sending your CVs resembles fishing with a net. Probably you catch something, or probably not. And the approach I'm talking about is a sniper approach. You find your potential client, you know that you may be useful for him or her, and you may communicate about it. And now this is the time for discussion. Here you see my contact information. And to finalize my presentation, I would like to say that quite recently I have found just notebook, which I started 4 years ago, and I wrote there my goals, financial goals, job-related goals, and there was a list, a sort of a map of my potential clients, international organizations I would like to work with, and I could be useful for, taking into account my specialization. So I opened it, and actually it turned out I have been working with this company throughout these 4 years. Some of them are my regular clients, some provided me with some single jobs, single orders, but anyway, it was really pleasant for me to understand this case.
So this reminds me once again that we as interpreters should primarily focus on the quality of our services. We should offer high-quality services in all the cases, but let us not forget that we should inform our customers about the services. So know your client, and the client should know you. Thank you very much for your attention. So you may share, you're welcome to share your comments, your questions, your experience. I'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. It was wonderful. Was all ears listening to you. So you have received the ready-made strategy of the long-term development. It's awesome. And the first question would be from me. We've discussed many times the benefits of being nice. But what would you recommend for me? I'm a person who enters the booth on the tiptoes, trying to be really invisible. Well, if people are complete strangers for me, I'm very shy and I would always hesitate. I do not know what a small talk is, and I believe that there are many people like me. Oh, Victoria, I'm so sorry, but you do not make such an impression. Okay, let's pretend that Vika is a very shy and hesitant person. Some recommendations for such a person. If you've been invited to interpret, you at least should be acquainted with the customer. So you may communicate with the customer. If it's the first contact, you should polish it, so to say. You should leave the business card. You should make friends on FB. Especially the person is interesting. You can follow this person on FB, on other social networks, for instance. Or let's say today we are attending a conference. There are people who know each other well. They make some, so to say, clusters. But there are people who are always new to the organization, like the new project lead. He or she arrives and then nobody knows the person. But of course, it's always a pleasure to start a communication. It's good to join the table where not only your customers but some potential customers also sit. Or you may start small talk about pets, dogs, kids. This topic may be not related to your interpretation, but nonetheless, this topic may give rise to a very nice communication, nice conversation, thus leading to productive contact. So start small, make small steps. I'm not a very open person myself. I do not start communication spontaneously, but you can be aware of this skill. You can start doing this as part of your business strategy. More questions, please. So I've got the mic, and now I will ask a question as a moderator. You said that you are not a healthcare professional, but since you are involved in healthcare topic, you have enough knowledge. You are on the same level as the project manager. Uh, Maybe you know your customers, you know the accents, so to say, but in simultaneous interpretation, you often get tempted to make some improvements, to improve the speaker. I'm trying to suffocate this temptation. I never try to decorate the speaker's words, but some colleagues indulge themselves. Well, okay, I know such situations, and as I was interpreting once, I recognized the person who was being described at that moment, and just the name of this person was given during the presentation, but I knew this person, and I gave the last name of this person, and the organizers, the customers made big eyes because they just didn't want to disclose the full name of this person, and I was not supposed to make any additions. And after this situation, I realized that I should be really brief and concise. I should stick to the point, stick to the words by the speaker. If something is not clear, the audience always has an opportunity to ask the questions, to ask for clarification, because we cannot be sure why the speaker did not disclose this or that piece of information just because he or she's not a good speaker, but because there are some reasons. Okay, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I think such presentation are the goal of attendance. Okay, so you mentioned the specialization, and you said that the specialization can be selected, can be chosen by spirit, so to say. So your topic should be close to your heart. Sometimes you uh, get involved into some topic because it's an organic process, because the topic is close to your heart, or because anyway you are involved somehow into this sphere. I um, have an example. One of my customers actually described an event, and I said that I would like to interpret at this event, and the customer said that yes, I believe that you would be fitting into this event because I'm following you on FB and know that you are interested in the topic. But of course, there should be some compromises. There are internal processes, there are internal passions and interests. On the other hand, there is a current economic situation and the demand on the market. It's, of course, important to know that the healthcare is a relevant topic because the pandemic won't leave us very soon, and one should choose the profitable topics, so to say. Thank you for your comment. Indeed, you are right. As I started working for this charitable foundation, I was really inspired, and because this was a human-centered topic, it was really interested for me to watch about people, to read the materials. I was really engaged by it. I know that not everyone is interested in the same way, and sometimes my colleagues were really scared off by this topic because they believed that everything was about the diseases. People may feel even depressed after translating or interpreting. It might be a burden for a person, indeed, a psychological burden. Thank you. Thank you. We've got lots of questions. Hello. I have a follow-up question. Could you please recommend us how to switch to another topic? Because it cannot happen overnight. You cannot wake up in the morning and say, okay, today I'm gonna get down to the healthcare related topic. You, of course, cannot enter the university the first year. What should you do? What should you read? Maybe you should start reading literature, watch Dr. House, and what are the limits of the preparation, so to say? Okay, thank you. Of course, nothing can be done that abruptly. It should not be a dramatic transition. Let's say you are a universal interpreter, but you would like to dedicate more time to a particular topic. In this case, you should take up more assignments, more orders in the field. You should focus on the topic, and you should work selectively, so to say. You may also focus on what's closer to your heart. As a translator, I work with the texts, and it's very difficult to to start reading something for fun. It's easier for me to watch some materials, some videos, some audios. So step by step, gradually, you can start your preparation, and thus you can approach the particular orders. And actually, I don't know what your specialization is. I don't know whether you are a translator or interpreter. You are a translator. Okay. So, uh, throughout your professional development, you will be getting more and more customers, and you will be referred to some other customers. And of course, it will be easier for you if your CV contains information on a certain number of the assignments or the projects completed. So gradually, step by step, you can switch. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I'd like to ask you a slightly provocative question. We know about the ethical standards, about the guidelines we're going to discuss a little bit later today. So let's say you've got a direct customer and you can approach this customer and communicate. But what if it is not your assignment, if your colleague has invited you or you are there through the translation agency? How can you promote your freelance services? Because in many cases it is strictly prohibited. The translation agencies are against such policy, and the colleagues, of course, won't be very happy. Well, thank you for your question. I do not work with the translation agencies at the moment. I used to work with them before, but of course there are various situations. In some situations, you can approach the customer. I worked with the WHO, for instance, through the translation agency, and if they ask me about my contacts, if they asked me, I never disclosed my details. Of course, I could give them my name, because, of course, I have a name. On the other hand, the customer always has an opportunity to find me somehow in a different way. But it was not my primary goal. I did not work too much with the translation agency. You regard the translation agencies as your customers, and you are, of course, reluctant to lose such a customer. It is likely that you will be getting more assignments through the translation agencies than through the direct customers. But there were some other situations. We were communicating with the customers in some informal situations during the lunch break, let's say, and some other attendees approached me and told me that we liked your work, we would like to get your contacts, and then I told them that I was through the translation agency. I was not supposed to give my contacts. They were reluctant to work through the translation agency, and then afterwards, in some other informal setting, while going to the taxi or to the underground station, I could give the details. Another situation is when the colleague has invited you, because it is not really positive to let the colleagues down. So thank you. Thank you. I have another question. How can you drink coffee with this hypothetical Samantha and Vasil during online events? How can I approach them? How can I offer them business cards if I do not know even their proper names, just their nicknames, like Pussycat 2020? Okay. There are still offline events. So my experience is relevant, of course, for offline events, not for online live. Uh, During online, you can also communicate. You can communicate with this key speaker. What would I do, for instance? If I were interested in cooperation, I might contact the speaker through FB or LinkedIn, or it might be some preliminary communication, so to say. Before the event, I might contact the speaker, ask for some materials, consult him or her, and then mention briefly that I'm a freelance interpreter, and if you need something, you can contact me. By the way, there are also some professional communities, some groups, and you can join these discussions. You can interfere in the positive sense of this word, and you can broaden your geography.
I'm a general interpreter. Thank you very much for your intervention. I'm mostly interested in the networking part. I'm curious how you transited this period of pandemic. You said that some of your customers asked you to interpret remotely, but are you also on remote platforms such as Kudo, or all your customers asked you to interpret remotely in this period? And also, are you a part of professional associations, local or international, such as AIIC, or are you part of networking platforms such as PROS? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, as for me, like this pandemic, it just changed the mode of the work, yeah. So it just changed the way we work with clients. But I still mostly, like by the time of when the pandemic started, I already had my portfolio of direct clients, and I just continue working with them. But now, instead of having a conference somewhere like a beautiful Prague or somewhere else, yeah, we would just have it online. Mostly my clients, they would use Zoom. They do not use RSI platforms, and no, I just kind of go with that. I'm not currently actively searching for clients, I would say. So I do not, for example, just register at some platform looking for clients there. So it's just more than my clients and I, we were looking for the way how to continue our cooperation in the times of pandemic. And as for the professional associations, no, I'm not part of or like member of any association, though I believe that it is a wonderful like opportunity, and it is very good when associations are functional in the countries. I know that in Ukraine we do have association, but it is pretty new, and at some point I believe that I might join as well. But I try to use some more informal networking opportunities, such as even this one, or such as some meetings in my city or in other cities where there are like translators or interpreters who just decide to kind of have coffee together or a glass of wine and also talk about their work. And it is also possible to find some like colleagues who would then like share their work with you if they are like overloaded.
Забагато. Дуже дякую, і ми готові відповісти на останнє питання, навіть не хочу. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We are ready to take up one more question, because it's the time for a break now. Well, thank you, Anna. I have a related question. Could you please recommend us any platforms where the beginners can introduce themselves, so to say, let the others know about themselves? And maybe you could also recommend us some organizations which young interpreters may join. Well, regarding the platforms, just visit FB. There are lots of groups, special groups for interpreters, dedicated groups for Ukrainian interpreters, for Russian-speaking interpreters, and you can join these groups. Sometimes you see the messages, such messages as, "Hello, my name is Anna, and I offer interpreting services." Actually, such messages do not make any sense, because everyone in this group is an interpreter or translator. Maybe the colleagues are rather willing to see some results, some deliverables. In this case, they would be willing to invite you or share the assignments. I would focus on the customers if I were you. If you have just 2 customers, you should try and broaden your list of customers. Regarding the organizations for interpreters, I'm not really knowledgeable. I'm not a member to any of such organizations. There are other people who can tell you more about the professional association. You can ask them. Okay, let's thank Anya. A round of applause for Anya. We've got a very brilliant discussion.